saw a meme on social media today, and if I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen for the YouTube video. And it's the SpongeBob meme with it's the SpongeBob meme where Squidward is looking out the window and SpongeBob and Patrick are playing outside. Oh no! And it was someone saying like, it was a Lance account where it was like all the other fans with their favorite drivers participating in testing, and they were Squidward, like staring out and watching all the fun.
Poor Lance. Yeah, speculating a broken arm or something that can happen with a biking incident, but unfortunately we will not be seeing Lance at preseason testing. Briana's coping relatively well.
We always joke that we have like a podium of our top 3 drivers that we support, and Lance is my P3. Like, I really like Lance, and I'm so disappointed that I don't get to see him in testing. Not that like it matters, but more it matters where I rationally now know he's so on the back foot because he's going to miss like at least 100 laps, and it was already going to be a challenge to compete with Fernando, and I don't get any like race suit pics of one of my favorite drivers this weekend. That's upsetting.
Yeah, it's a big bummer, and I mean, hopefully he's fine for Bahrain. It's like very, very scary because we don't have a lot of details of like what actually happened. Just a lot of other drivers commenting strong arm emojis to recover soon, and that it was a biking incident is what we got. Yeah, you know, showing support with the arm. We're so strong.
Yeah, because like can't get too close to showing affection.
Right.
But we can say get stronger. Which I do think is funny because the only thing we know is that it's an arm injury. And so all of these men are commenting like their stereotypical like strong arm emoji. And I'm like, I don't think you're meaning to be this on the nose with what's going on.
No, they're not. That's how that's their equivalent of like sending love, sending gains. Like it's
And I understand if this was any other driver, like, right now, I would be spiraling, like, oh my god, okay, they're on the back foot, and then they might lose their seat. And I understand that what comes with being a Lance fan is that there's zero worry about him losing his seat unless he wants to stop driving. So I'm not actually worried, but just as someone who both likes to see Lance succeed and see Fernando fail, I'm sad. This doesn't seem like a good setup for me. I'm not encouraged.
Maybe we'll see Felipe come in and really just wow us.
That would be exciting. The only positive to come of this is I do think it's exciting that the reigning F2 champ is going to get track time. But the whole thing just feels like...
Yeah. That's exactly the sound that played in my head when I saw the dramatic Aston Martin quote on Lance's social media of, you know, definitely provided from Aston Martin about what was going on. But it was just like, wah, wah, wah. Aston Martin looking great and still looking to be a strong start to the season. Just kidding.
Last year, Seb missed the start of the season too. So which is, I don't know what's in the water with Aston Martin, but it's not good.
Nope. It is not. It is a very special week here.
Yeah.
We have 2 episodes this week. This is our preseason episode, which will be very unique and fun. But before we dive into that, we will be having an extra special bonus episode this weekend because Drive to Survive. Season 5 comes out this Friday. We are making a very bold decision to watch 10 hours of television straight. We will be recording. We will be recording our live reaction at the end of every episode. So Briana and I will hop on, discuss all of our thoughts and feelings about what we just watched. Then we will move on to the next episode, and we will be able to compile all of that for you in one magical DTS bonus episode. So it will be spoiler heavy. That's not going to be a spoiler free environment because we will have a lot of thoughts and feelings that need full details. So we'll be giving time codes and markers so you can see in our description. Maybe you watch an episode and you're like, we need to hear more about this, or what is everyone talking about? Or when you get to the Daniel Ricciardo episode and you need to see how hard Nicole cried, you can definitely jump on and click to see that. We, again, are watching 10 hours of television, so right now our plan is to have this episode up Saturday evening Pacific time. 10 hours of television is a lot, and we are human. It may be up Sunday. Check it out this weekend. Have auto downloads on. Turn notifications on. That's a great way to find out when it's posted, but it will be up this weekend. And we also have preseason testing, so there'll be a lot of content on our socials this week. But that leads us directly into our preseason episode. Briana, would you like to talk about the fun that we're having today?
Yes. So, normally we end our show with the yellow sector notes, which is essentially our grid walk through the paddock, making sure we hit every team. But because today is our very special 2023 season preview episode, the entire episode is basically yellow sector notes, and it's our grid walk. You know, the name, ha ha ha, get it?
She said the thing!
It's our grid walk through the paddock. We're going to go through every team in an order we determined just arbitrarily, admittedly. And we're going to talk about what goals we think the teams are setting for themselves, and in order to determine was this season a success. And then we're going to talk about the goals we personally have for the teams. What would make the Haas season successful in our eyes, which we will spoil is definitely different than probably what will make the Haas team successful in Haas's eyes. So we're starting with Mercedes, to shock of no one, because our favorite team with our favorite driver.
Yes. Just already preparing ourselves for our hope alarm. Just needed to go out quick.
So I know that Mercedes just wants to be fighting back at the front again. Yes, Parker agrees.
Yes!
Yes. As much as I want that to be true, I understand that we are in year 2 of a regulation set. If Red Bull doesn't win this year, shocking. I just need Lewis to win a race, Nicole. I just really need Lewis to win a race.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, I think feels weird to say that's what we'll settle for, because the W14 is black, so it's fast. But God, I want to see Lewis win again, please. It feels like we're watching not Formula One, because he didn't win a race. So I'll feel that we're already succeeding if that man is P1, top of a podium, all is right in the world again.
I need a positive step. I need it to be slightly less depressing this season. It felt like every single time he had an opportunity to win a race, something chaotic happened. And yeah. I really, of all the 20 drivers on the grid, no one gets my blood boiling last season more than K-Mag did for the most part, because he just loved to turn right into Lewis Hamilton. Every time they lined up on the grid, I'm like, you're just going to turn left. And it's really, it's not good for Haas, and it's really not good for Lewis. I have some PTSD. I need a car that's better in qualifying. Realistic, how is Lewis going to win a race? The W14 needs to just qualify slightly better, so he's not sitting at P8 next to Kevin Magnussen.
Right, and I think if we could also solve the porpoising problem, which we're still unsure at the moment what is happening, because there's a lot of speculation with every shakedown, everything, and we could talk about that forever. But I feel like, if we can get a grasp, I'm part of Mercedes
because we're totally
now.
involved.
Identify as part of the team. If we can get a grip on that, I will feel a lot better about everything. But I don't want any more bouncing. It also, again, the W14 is floating above the ground. That car has shadow every single spot that there can be shadow on the ground. It is so more of we are not on the floor than it's such a striking difference than last year.
Yeah. I mean, the porpoising storyline is a little tired because every car on the grid was porpoising. Mercedes wasn't slow because they were porpoising. Like, Ferrari was winning races, bouncing up and down crazier than the Mercedes was. So, there's a couple of Mercedes storylines going into this season that I'm preemptively tired about. The incorrect storyline that George Russell was faster than Lewis last year, coming from someone who psychotically ran the data every week, it just wasn't the case.
The more you know. Run the numbers and you'll see. George wasn't doing incredibly better than Lewis the whole season.
No. Actually, Lewis really averaged, after all the, like, Lewis handling all the, like, crazy tests they were doing, Lewis's race pace was normally at least a minimum a tenth above George's. But, you know, follow us at Gridwalk Show. I'll be sharing my numbers with you this season because I'm a crazy person who sits there and watches the race with, like, 6 windows and, like, writing notes down. And then I send Nicole 6-minute voice notes talking about race pace.
Mm-hmm. Full spreadsheets. There's a whole lot of data. It's really incredible.
Thank you.
Can't wait for everyone to see.
I don't know if I'm going to show the spreadsheets.
Fair. Join our Patreon. Just kidding. We don't have a Patreon. but eventually.
Maybe one day.
One day.
If someone actually wants to see my crazy spreadsheets of how I calculate race pace, like, sure. Cool. Just let me know. But so I'm already tired of that storyline. I'm tired of the people still thinking Lewis is going to retire storyline, and I'm tired of hearing about porpoising. If the W14 is slow, we have bigger issues than whether or not it's bouncing up and down.
Yeah, because if that giant genius team of engineers and every tech person that Mercedes, of all people, have, if they did not learn from the W13, then I have lost all hope. There is no hope alarm because the hope is gone.
No, so then it's just... Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I said those were some storylines I'm complaining about. But I do think, like, it's interesting that the expectations we have for that team are so high that they were comfortably the third fastest team, and we talk about them like they were like a tractor on track. And it's just, like, the context of it is really funny because I just had a moment of self-realization that we were just like, oh my god, the car has to be fast. It was so slow last year. And I'm like, at some point in this grid walk, we're going to be talking about, like, the Williams. And we're going to be like, oh, like, they're going to just improve. And, like,
right. They're like, they just need to do, I don't want to spoil it, they just need to do X, Y, Z. And then, Mercedes were just like, if you're not flying, then you should just quit. Don't quit. Stay forever. We love you so much. I believe in you. I have so much hope. I don't believe any of this. But that is really funny context. I didn't think about it that way.
Well, that's why Formula One's so fun, because, like, every team on the grid has a storyline worth following, even though, like, a lot of people are like, I don't get it. Like, you know who's going to win every week. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not always what's so fun about F1. It's like, okay, but is that team gonna score points is also fun. Am I gonna get angry at the Mercedes team this week because they didn't support Lewis the way I think they should? Like, these are all reasons to tune in on a Sunday. So, do you think Mercedes is gonna sandbag this week? This is my...
Yes. My hot take right now, I think they've been sandbagging this whole time. I think they're PR sandbagging. I think all of it is just like and I think that's just me trying to also be hopeful and naive and in denial about any possibility of the W14 not, like, flying at the speed of light. That I just want to be like, anytime I'm seeing the, like, 1 second edited clip of, Lewis hitting a bump, or Toto saying all of these things about, oh, we have, this upgrade already, and whatever. I'm just like, yeah, sure, right, yeah, sure. No, I know what you guys are doing. You guys aren't dumb, and neither am I. So I don't believe you.
I do believe that it is so hard to catch up when you're on a back foot in a regulation set. You have to upgrade at a faster rate than your competitors. Yeah. So I'm not irrationally thinking, oh, they're going to be fighting with Red Bull right from the start or anything like that. But I agree. I think they're really... I think they learned from last year. They came in last year really bullish, and I think they just understand from a PR standpoint that that's not a good idea. And I just get so nervous because the only car we haven't seen actually seen a shakedown from is Red Bull. Somehow they've evaded the sneaky photos.
Blurry blob. It's unbelievable. I can't. It makes no sense to me. I have no idea how we have not seen a single thing. So we really don't have a lot of context. We don't have that like comparison to, and of course, like, yeah, we need to see Ferrari, but like, no, I want to see what the RB19 is doing. I need to see what that thing looks like. I don't know. I just have like anxiety agita of like, yeah. it's looming. I can like close my eyes and I just see that blurry photo of the RB19 and I'm just like, why can't, like, what are you holding? What are your secrets?
It's like, dun-dun, 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 the RB19.
Perfect time to transition into our discussion of the current champions. This is where everything's about to get real interesting, everybody, because this has a personal stake. Red Bull. Red Bull is a interesting place to be this year.
I mean, their goals, like what would be a successful 2023 for Red Bull, to them is win the Constructors, win the drivers again. And I think more specifically, both. And I think more specifically, Max wins the drivers. Like, I don't think they want anyone else to, nor would they. Yeah,
I feel like that goes without saying, but I guess it's important to say to lead into the drama of, I mean, I think another storyline that the media will play with for a while is like last season tension, Max and Checo, and is it okay? Is everything happy in the Red Bull world? So I think we'll get a lot of that.
Yeah. Which leads into my personal goal for Red Bull for the season, which is, you know, maybe we could go a season without Red Bull cheating, or maybe creating a giant PR nightmare, or a racism scandal. Like, I think that if Red Bull could have a relatively quiet season in the press, like if the worst thing that happens in Red Bull is Max and Checo fighting, that would be such a win for Red Bull this season. Because I'm really tired. I'm tired of it. Yeah.
I would love no racist incidents.
Right.
And you know what? If like you're so focused on that maybe you bust the cost cap again. Oh no. You said as a Mercedes fan. But maybe they changed caterers. So like, you know,
I don't want to perpetuate that incorrect rumor. That's not how budgets work.
It didn't make any sense, but
no. You know what happened though? It made me really worried for everyone's financial situation if they thought that that's how budgets work. But if this team that doesn't have to be the least likable team on the grid could somehow manage to go an entire season without cheating, that would be cool. I would just somehow, maybe, this is my challenge to you, Red Bull. Look, you're going to be fast. The cost cap punishment isn't actually going to punish you. We understand it. Go win the championship, and could you just do quietly and not controversially for once? Like, shh. Just kind of shh.
If you're thinking about saying something, maybe just don't. Or, yeah, I don't know. Because there's pieces of me that want to like everything about Red Bull. And I just do not support most of their association.
So we have to play my favorite game now, because we haven't updated in a while. So, Nicole, huge Daniel Ricciardo fan.
This game makes me nervous.
Huge Daniel Ricciardo fan, huge Lewis Hamilton fan. So, obviously, not a Red Bull fan, if you couldn't figure it out from the last 3 minutes of content you listened to. So we're playing this fun game of Nicole loves merchandise. On a scale from 0 being absolutely no way to 10, it's shipped on its way to me. If Daniel Ricciardo Red Bull merch was available to purchase right now, because it's not, because they're lame and don't want money for some reason, where are you from 0 to 10 right now on your buying Daniel Ricciardo Red Bull merch specifically right now?
So first disclaimer, I think I need to point out, when we were at COTA, and it was Sunday, it was post-race, and we were back at the hotel, and it was the first rumor drop of Daniel Ricciardo, reserve driver for Red Bull. I collapsed. I could not process that. I was like, no, he's joining the dark side. And this was before I watched Star Wars. I was already just like, no, I can't. Especially that was also when Toto was spotted in Danny Rick merch, and I was like, what is happening? What is going on? I couldn't. Yeah.
Nicole is this dramatic in real life.
No,
Just
this
so
is
we're
real.
aware. She's not exaggerating. I watched her collapse to the ground like she was in a stage production. And yes, to all of you screaming out there, Nicole is well aware that Daniel has been a Red Bull driver for most of his career. She just didn't become a fan of him until after he was a Red Bull driver because dark side, then he left the dark side. So just some added context. But yes, Nicole is not exaggerating. She is this dramatic. So
Yeah.
And at that moment, it was a 0. She was talking to me about how maybe, if that happened, she wouldn't actually be a fan of his ever again. And we've kind of walked that back a little bit because she really likes the Australian man.
I love him, and I just also love good PR and good marketing. So it's a real sickening. So basically, go back to the question. First, It depends on the item. I will never...
No. I just... Red Bull, Daniel Ricciardo merch. So right now, I'll give you some context. Right now, what they've released for Sergio and Max are team kits. So we're just talking team kits. Red Bull team kits.
Right.
I'm no flat brim hats or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I will never purchase a Red Bull flat brim hat. If I ever do, that's a cry for help. I am never buying a flat brim Red Bull hat. I'm also never buying a Red Bull Team Kits polo. But that's also, I'm not buying teams polos. Things will get sticky. If there is a Daniel Ricciardo release of the long sleeves, and it gives you wings on the sleeves, which is
what I'm talking about. Let's pretend that that's already been released. 0, no way I'm buying that. They are the enemy. To 10, it's already shipped on its way to me. Where are you right now?
Like a 5.
Whoa! Okay, so Nicole and I talk about this off pod all the time. And the last time we chatted about this, it was at a 1. So, okay, we need well, it's okay, because since our goal for Red Bull is 0 scandals this year, and maybe don't cheat, I give it till race 2. They're going to do something, and you're going to be like, crap, never mind.
Right. And part of the preparation for this was we needed to consider who we were rooting for in the team battles, in the driver battle. And I had to make the decision of, I'm technically rooting for Max. Okay, I'm technically rooting for Max. Yay! I know, I'm sorry. And I don't think that they're good. I know Red Bull has the reputation. It's not the first time they would have replaced a driver mid-season, blah, 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 blah. I do not believe that Red Bull is going to...
We're cutting you off. No more. I don't want to hear about Max anymore. No.
Can I talk about Checo?
Yeah, no, I'm teasing you. 100%. I understand why you feel that way. You want one of your favorite drivers to have a seat again. It's totally fine, but you still get a bit
I'm sorry. I am. And again, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they'll continue to use Daniel as a marketing machine because, look, I can't let myself... I've already come to terms with this man not having a seat this year, and that is where I I'm okay. I cannot have a hope of that he will be driving. And then I have to process he will be number 2 to Max, and he will just do whatever they say. And that's another thing that I'll have to cope with if it ever gets there. But I don't think it will.
No.
Yeah.
To our point, our goal for Red Bull this year being like, don't create a scandal, don't create a PR nightmare. This team is like itching for a mid-season driver swap. Like, I feel like they just like are like on withdrawals. So I understand why everyone is like all up in arms about this. Which leads us to their sister team, AlphaTauri, interestingly, because everyone's talking about Daniel Ricciardo, but if Yuki or Nick has a huge season in some way in that AlphaTauri, it is just as likely that they get pulled up if, for some reason, Red Bull decides no more Sergio Perez, and it's to messing with the golden boy.
Wow, I haven't even considered the idea of them replacing Checo not with Daniel, because that in my brain is so unheard of. God, could you imagine the fury I would go on if they replaced Checo with Yuki and not Ricciardo? I would be you couldn't have a conversation with me. I'd be livid.
No, that would be a rough pod, because I would just be sitting there like, but the data. Because, so we've only done preseason podcasts, so we haven't done an in-season Briana podcast where I just, I love F1 because I like just doing mental math on a Sunday and, looking at lap times. That's my, there's so many reasons and ways to be interested in F1. I find them all fascinating. But, if someone was like, what is your one reason? I would answer with math. I love math.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally, we were sitting at Coda, and as Lewis is in the lead, you're looking at numbers and you're like, it's not going to happen. We could just be like, he's not going to win because he's losing seconds. Look at what Max is doing. And we're sitting here live. There's no spreadsheets. I'm just like, yep. It was great preparation. And I appreciate it now looking back because I was prepared for him not to win, even though I'm just like, he's P1 and it's happening. And it knew it wasn't going to happen.
It was still really fun.
It was very fun.
Yeah.
AlphaTauri.
AlphaTauri, I think, their goal for themselves, they come out every year and say the goal of the team is to finish top 5 in the Constructors. So they're one of the teams that are, very clearly outlined, and I don't know, it hasn't come out how many parts they bought from Red Bull this year. So normally in the second year of a regulation set, AlphaTauri and Haas make a jump because of how closely partnered with Ferrari and Red Bull they are. They buy a bunch of parts, they get better. I don't know how much either of those teams have purchased this year, so top 5 total could happen. They could make a big jump. But my personal goal for AlphaTauri this year, and I wonder if you are on board with this as well, is can you just figure out your future? Sister teams are dumb. We shouldn't have 2 Red Bull teams on the grid. Are they going to sell the team? They consistently are saying, Red Bull, that is the day in this, that they're not trying to sell AlphaTauri, and I believe that they're not actively trying to sell it, but I also believe that where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's so many teams trying to buy AlphaTauri right now, it seems, that it's going to bid up to a price where Red Bull agrees to let them go. So that's my goal is, I don't want to hear this rumor mill anymore. Someone buy the team already. That's my thoughts. What are you?
As soon as they changed their name from Toro Rosso, I was like, why are you here? Because that, again, it's, not a fashion brand, whatever. Yeah, sister teams, I don't understand it. I don't think we need 2 of them. I think we are in a place where over the next few years, we are going to see a lot of people trying to get into this space. We're seeing it with partnerships. We're seeing it with Ford being so loud right now, and they're not even on the grid in a sense, in, whatever partnership financial way. I don't think that's slowing down. We had the deadline last week with the FIA's current process about new teams interested, submitting applications, things like that. I think especially as the season goes and depending on how AlphaTauri is performing, I feel like there'll probably be more public claims of interest. And AlphaTauri continuously, or Red Bull coming out saying we weren't too jazzed about that offer. And we're like, who? You're for sale? Right. It'll be until, Andretti walks in and says, here's $1 zillion. And they're like, that sounds great. And there you go. Yeah. Money talks. It's the price tag. But yeah, I'm ready. I think I don't think they're necessarily adding much pizzazz to the grid. So I think it's a really great place for there to be some spice.
I stand by this, and it's not just... I mean, AlphaTauri being a sister team, like exactly a sister team, is worse, in my opinion, than Haas's relationship with Ferrari, because it's at least not owned by the same people. But, like, my goal for the grid is, like, no sad teams for 2026. And...
2026. I was like, there's no way that's happening this year.
Oh, no. That's my 2026 goal. Yeah, no. My goal for AlphaTauri is to figure out something for 2026, please. But, yeah, because it is knowing that there's theoretically only 9 teams on the grid who even care about winning a championship is sad when there's only 10 teams. Like, AlphaTauri is never... They are the junior team, even though they like to call them a sister team. But they're the junior team, which means that they are designed not to win. They're designed to just be helpful to Red Bull. And, like, we don't need less people competing for a championship. That's boring. So my favorite team to talk about in a preseason setting are the boys in red at Ferrari. Because if we're talking about, like, what goals are they setting for themselves, every offseason it's the same goal, and it's win both championships, but more specifically, win the Constructors, because that's really all they care about.
Yeah.
And my goal for them is to just embarrass themselves less. Like, I think if every weekend we're not talking about them messing up, maybe half the weekends, that would be a successful season for them.
Would love that. Yeah, figure out what you're doing with your tires, sort out power units. But it is very interesting, I think, with a lot of teams, or I guess particularly if you want to look at Red Bull, it always feels like it's a joint conversation of, like, winning the Constructors and Max winning the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari is such the vibe. It's like, no, Ferrari will win. And, like, I don't think it necessarily matters to them who wins the Drivers. Maybe that's, like, a strong statement, but, like, Ferrari winning the Constructors is their priority. And do I think that will happen this year? No. So I agree. My goal with them, it'll be successful if they stay within the top 3. But that would also require...
I think that's 100%. Like, they're not...
I was going to say, that would require Alpine or Aston Martin or another team to, like, really figure out what they're doing. But you know what? If you guys stay in the tops, which, like, I think they will, so just don't embarrass yourself and... Maybe be competitive some weekends. Carlos, stay out of the gravel. Charles, I don't know what to say to you, but just keep going. Push.
I think that the real thing is, don't make anyone a scapegoat for 2023. Like, actually take responsibility, which we know is not going to happen. But
no, they're going to scapegoat for sure.
Right. And fix your tire modeling software. Because if we're going to get real nerdy here for a second, their tire modeling software had to have been messed up. This is my assessment for last year. The decisions they were making, not even just they're in the moment. Like, a lot of people focused on them making bad decisions in the moment. Like, not deciding to pit at the right time. And, like, I think some of that comes down to circumstance and just, you can get unlucky and sometimes make the wrong decisions. It's more the times where they just put their drivers on tires that no one else is using because they're bad. And that comes down to the prep you do going into the session. And that comes down to your tire modeling softwares for the weekend. So if I'm really going to be nerdy and specific, can you check on that software, Ferrari? Please?
Your service has been temporarily disconnected.
That's where we're going to cut off your tire talk. It's enough. It's true. It's very, very true. Again, they just need a better plan. And if I have to see one more race of Charles being on one set of tires and every other group is on another set of tires, or like them, pitting at completely times that seem arbitrary or wrong, or just, plan F. Here we go.
Yeah, they need a new plan naming system because every team has plans, but theirs just became such a meme.
Do they have to see? Yeah, it just can't be as noticeably shifting.
Right. Yeah, I pointed this out last season, but Mercedes also has multiple plans, but how they communicate it on the radio is they would be like, Lewis, we're going with, our plan plus 10, or our plan minus 5. So basically they have a planned set of laps for that stint, and they're communicating to Lewis, hey, we're going to need you to do more or less than that based on what we're seeing, which just is more confusing to a viewer, therefore it is less memeable, is really what it is. So Ferrari is saying the same things, except they're saying plan A, plan B, but plan A is probably like 50 plus, 15 plus 5, and plan B is 15 plus 10, and so it's all communicating the same information in the end. If I'm also going to get granular about ways to improve, like, make decisions without running it by your drivers. Like, there's a way to communicate on the radio, and look, I'm not a race car driver, but when someone asks you a question that you need to make in a short amount of time with limited information, presenting it to them like, we think we should go to the grocery store right now, are you okay with that, is really different than, should we go to the grocery store? Should we go to the convenience store? We could eat at a restaurant. One of those requires a lot of thought to decide what you want to do. The other one is you know what, that sounds like a great idea. Confirm. And when you are driving a race car at a really fast speed and making instantaneous decisions, it's much easier to not have to decide what store you want to go to, but to just confirm that you like the store you're going to.
And with their, like, big, the most recent, or one of the recent interviews with, like, their new team principal, and Fred's like, we just gotta really work on communication. I'm just imagining, like, the entire Ferrari garage is just, like, an Italian family, like, all yelling at each other in the kitchen, and it's just, like, no one can make a decision because, like, everyone is wanting to be, like, put their input in. Like, that's completely what I imagine, like, a strong, loving, very loud, very excited, because it's a circus. It is an unbelievable amount of chaos. But when his answer is just like, we're going to improve communication, I'm just like, what? So, like, you're not just going to all, like, be yelling at each other in Italian? I think it's inevitable that if the season doesn't work out how they want, they're going to pick a scapegoat.
I just want Ferrari to set more realistic expectations. So if we're sitting here talking about, like, what's our goal versus what their goal is, I think this is the team with the biggest gap there, where it's clear that their goal is to win the Constructors, and our goal for them is to, like, get slightly better. And, like, I wish their goal for themselves was get slightly better.
Yeah. I don't want another year of, like, sad Carlos sitting on the hill, or Charles getting, like, a yell, 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 yell. Like, it just is too dramatic. It's so Ferrari, and I love you, Ferrari. You can't just win because you're Ferrari. You can be good because you're Ferrari, but, like, act like you're Ferrari and create a team and a strategy that wins, and not just, we're red and we've been here. Yeah.
Ferrari has always been this, except for the brief time where Ferrari was Michael Schumacher and he decided to make Ferrari not Ferrari, and then Ferrari went back to being Ferrari, which is the preseason. We talk about how their engine's the craziest thing in the world, and they brought 10 seconds of upgrades, and everything's going to be great, and they're going to win it all. And I can't wait for them to win at Bahrain, and for all of us to overreact, and then it just go back to being normal. Because what is an F1 season without Ferrari showing a little promise at the beginning and all of us overreacting to it? So, McLaren, we've entered the true midfield in our grid walk here. I think McLaren's goal for themselves is 4th place in the Constructors. And contrary to, I think, their general PR right now about how slow their car is, I think they're feeling pretty confident about it, because they like their driver lineup this year. They're going in. But I think my goal for McLaren, because that Alpine looks good, is maybe be able to bring a couple upgrades that look a little less hopeless this year, and don't have brake problems for 90% of the season. Is really, I'm like, did you fix your brakes? Because a whole season of that was hard.
And this is Nicole stepping on her emotional soapbox, and hey, maybe, like, don't screw up with another Australian driver. And again, this is coming from a complete Daniel Ricciardo perspective, and don't put in the comments how Daniel performed, because trust me, I know. You don't need to do all that. But I feel like
Nicole gets 6-minute voice notes from me that breaks down Daniel Ricciardo's race pace after every weekend last year. She knows.
I'm aware. I don't love him because he's a good driver, okay? But I currently am enjoying Oscar's presence. Yeah. I really hope it's a happy, wonderful relationship and it doesn't feel as last year that it was like, Lando's the golden boy and then we have this slow old man. Like, I just want it to be a happy, healthy, like, utilize, like, be good at PR, use your drivers the right way, and hopefully it could be less of a scandal to your relationship with your drivers this year. I think they're going to be super slow, but again, I think I'm coming from an emotional place. Yeah, I hope it's a tractor. And I hope Zach Brown cries. But that's, again, coming from not a technical, logical place.
And that's okay. I think there's actually a lot of fans who are really emotional, whether or not they're Daniel Ricciardo fans. I think a lot of people were very emotional about everything that went on last year. And there's a general consensus, it feels, that everyone wanted Piastri on the grid, but not in such a dramatic fashion. And I do feel bad for him because his job was to get on the grid, and there's only 20 spots. And so I think he was put in an impossible position. So I am rooting really hard for Piastri because I just want, like, it would be really sad to watch, like, what is he, 22?
Something maybe like that.
Yeah, he's so young. He's finally achieved his dream, and I just don't want it to be a disaster because he's coming in on the back foot from a PR standpoint, and that does matter.
Yeah, I mean, he was technically coming in with 2 seats. So really, he was a driver with the best position this past August was Alpine and McLaren. I can't wait to see that in Drive to Survive. But yeah, it is a very unique position that he's in. There's a lot of, I think, a lot of people probably didn't enjoy watching that PR nightmare as much as we did and how it was handled.
So ridiculous.
Oh my God, talk about silly. It was just crazy. All of that was, I could not keep up. But it'll be, hopefully, I don't know, give us more Oscar. Give us Oscar making pastries. Lean into the joke.
I did see that McLaren put out some PR photos of both their drivers, like, cooking for Pancake Day yesterday. And so I think they're going to lean into it. And then Piastri posted a photo of his helmet that was altered to say pastry instead of Piastri, which I thought was really funny. And I appreciate anyone who can lean into a meme about themselves. So I don't know. I'm really rooting for him because I think that's such a hard way to start off a career. And people who understand driving say that he's one of the most promising young drivers since, like, Lewis, which is really high praise. And I don't know if he can live up to that, but I also think another goal for this season for McLaren should be don't ruin their relationship with their star driver. Like, I get that Lando right now seems totally okay not winning races, but I really don't think he's totally okay not winning races, and they need to nurture that relationship if they want to keep him.
But unfortunately, they have a tractor. So now it's time to talk about the besties on the grid. Ha! Really? No, they're definitely not. Alpine. We got our French boys this year. Double French driver lineup. I think it definitely, for Alpine, if they can stay in P4 this year for Constructors, they'll be really, really happy about that.
I love teams that, like, just come out and say, this is our goal for this year. And Alpine, on the stage of their launch, said, our goal is to stay in P4 and get slightly closer to P3. And I'm like, woo, setting expectations.
Realistic, honest, transparent. This is what we want. This is what we believe we can do right now. Because then if they, for some... God, could you imagine a world where they are higher than P4? Only me, apparently. And my fear of Ferrari just being Ferrari. But I think, they just are honest and true, and I support them for that. And I think you and I both agree that if Esty, Bestie, and Pierre do not kill each other throughout the season, then it's a great one. But if they're able to, not kill each other and also have less DNFs and a more reliable car, I'm seeing wins all around.
I totally
meaning like
yes, I totally misunderstood what you said.
Race wins.
Yes,
sorry, but metaphorical season wins. We're P4 and our drivers are alive. Like it's like our drivers are not, being
killing each other.
Yeah, they're not crashing into each other because they got into a fight in the paddock about lunch. I don't know.
If you're watching on YouTube, you probably could just see my face be like, "What are you talking about, Nicole? The goal isn't like." But no, what you said made complete sense. My brain didn't process it correctly. But yeah, I 100% agree. I think, so I'm of two minds with this. Half of me is like, oh yeah, the goal is if their drivers don't implode and completely kill each other, then that's a successful season. But then my other side of my brain is like, maybe it's a successful season if they're entertaining, and they do. Because I think that's more likely. And I just, when they're going to get asked that question a lot, and if Pierre is already annoyed getting asked the question, like his first quotes make it seem, like this is not, like you're going to get asked that every day of every race week.
It's going to happen at, someone's going to ask him at a race where SD, outperforms him in some capacity, whether it's in qualifying, whether it's in the race itself, and I don't think that boy's going to be able to properly handle a response that isn't slightly scandalous or revealing too much about what the real relationship is.
And revealing our bias in this is we both are big Esteban fans. We're, in this teammate battle, we're team SD Bestie.
SD Bestie's my number 3 driver of my podiums. Yeah. So, he's my Lance.
Yeah, and I think Esteban has made it clear through this offseason that he can be the company man. And he can play the game of let's pretend we're best friends by posting Pierre on his Instagram and doing all the things. And shout out to him for playing the game. Mm-hmm. And Esteban also had to be teammates with Fernando for the last X amount of years. So he understands how to answer in the press. Oh, Fernando did this better than you. How do you feel about that? He has a lot of practice being in a competitive teammate relationship. And the only time we've ever seen Pierre have to deal with this was the half a season that he was teammates with Max. And that was a long time ago now. And I'm not trying to say SD Bestie is Max. But Pierre needs to prove to me, and he hasn't yet, that he can play the media game and keep this relationship simmering instead of at a full rolling boil. Because so much of this, I fully believe that they're probably older and more mature and can totally, whatever happened with them and their families back when they were karting, it's probably not a big deal anymore. But it's going to be poked.
But everyone throwing it in their face, I could see it becoming a bigger deal. And Pierre's coming from this unbelievably unique spot in the grid of circling back to AlphaTauri of it, not necessarily that car's not going to be winning the championship. So it's in a place that's almost, I want to say safe. And him and Yuki are two peas in a pod, BFFs, lovers, whatever their whole thing is. And that's really rare that you can see that kind of tight knit. Not that they weren't competitive to each other, but so supportive and loving of their other partner openly, consistently. And I think you can only really do that at a team like AlphaTauri.
And I would argue that relationship was that way because Pierre didn't feel threatened in any way of his position as number 1 driver on that team. Mm-hmm. The more clear your roles are in a team and the more okay everyone is with those roles, the more likely teammates are going to get along. I'm a firm believer that George understands that right now Lewis is the number 1 driver on that team. That doesn't mean he's not going to fight on track, but it means he's not going to make a big stink into the press because he understands what's going on. So, and I always felt the same way about Pierre and Yuki. Yuki understood, I'm going to try to beat Pierre on track, but Pierre's the number 1 driver in this situation, and I'm not going to create a big stink about that. So, Aston Martin's the only team on the grid right now that I think is actually bullish to the press. And everyone is really high on this Aston Martin car. And as a Lance Stroll fan, I would like them to be really high on the car. But because they are the only team that is excited and like saying they're going to be back fighting towards the front and in the more real midfield, because their car was real peaky last year, I'm nervous. I don't know how much I believe their bullish behavior.
Yeah, two new drivers, Alonso and Felipe. It's really crazy. I'm kidding. We love Lance. We love Lance. We wish him a speedy recovery. I in this team battle, I'm rooting for Lance. That is my choice of this, and that has nothing to do necessarily with, my feelings of Lance. I'm just Alonso. No, that's not true. It's both. Not a big Alonso fan, and I can tolerate Lance's existence. But it's going to be, it started, they seem to be on a good start at the launch. It's been a rough couple of days. I hope they'll love to be more consistent towards the end of the season. Last year, they seemed to start to like develop a groove and a rhythm and like kind of really figure out what they needed to be doing. And maybe if they figured that out earlier, things would be different for Seb, but we can't play that kind of speculation game right now. But it would be incredible if Lance just comes in and smokes Alonso in every possible way. So I think that's what we
the angry person in the comments right now, just let us be delusional. What is a preseason preview for but to be crazy delusional? Yeah.
Who's all for delusion. We're not here to be making tons of common sense.
Yeah, Aston Martin's in a weird place because they're definitely a team whose goal right now, and we are entering the part of the grid where most of their personal goals are all about the next regulation set, like what they can do for 2026 when we get the new engine in. And like right now, the big rumor is that Aston Martin might be the one to partner with Honda for 2026, so they'll become a full works team. Right now, I think they would like to just not have a bunch of P10s. I think that's that's my expectation. Like, Lance not just fighting for P10 and P9 every week sounds like fun.
Yeah.
But I will say that their car is the most intriguing car on the grid right now. They've made the most visual changes, and I don't know enough to know if it's going to work, but it is exciting. I think it's the only car launch that I left you a voice note screaming about the car.
Very excited about you're like, this is exciting. We can talk about things. There's things to discuss and to talk about, and oh my goodness. Yeah. And I was like, right. Thank goodness we also have a podcast now for this, so it's not just for me to hear these theories. But it's they're coming in with a lot of new. They're coming in with a lot of fresh starts. It would be really cool if that car was competitive and did things.
Right.
Particularly Lance's car. It's gonna be. I mean, we have once again Alonso's fresh start of new team, new journey, new chapter. La la la. Will we see any difference? I hope not. But maybe.
I love the cycle of Fernando Alonso in F1. It's like the most consistent thing. It feels stable and safe, where it's like right now it's the early honeymoon phase and he's only saying positive things in the press and he loves the team, but of course he's making stabs at Alpine while doing it. And then like year one is like not as successful as you want it to be, but things are still positive. And then by the end of the stint, it's like flaming out like it did with Alpine and like everything's a disaster and like... Like, don't forget that everything that happened with Oscar happened because all of a sudden Fernando Alonso was like, see ya.
Bye. Dip. Hello.
I'm gonna go take all the money over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take this money. I'm gonna go to this seat. I'm gonna be over here with a haircut and a shaved face. And, the new, like, God, doing so much PR with Aston Martin. It's like, really, Aston Martin's taking advantage of this honeymoon phase. And they're like, every video we can get with Alonso and merch in the... Oh, it's just, yeah. They're grabbing a hold of it now.
Yeah. My favorite thing is Aston Martin's total acceptance that Lance just hates doing media. Like, he just doesn't like to talk. Like, if you ever... gone and watched all the like post-session interviews, which is something I like to do with like all the drivers. And I love when I see Lance's and it's over a minute and I'm like, oh, he said words. And this is coming from someone who's like, I just genuinely enjoy that he doesn't like media. So yeah. Aston Martin just looks at their second driver and they go, you are going to do all the things now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every post-race interview with Lance, he's just looks. It's like he's so tired and like surprised that he needs to do an interview. It's like he's like, "What do you mean I just raced for 2 hours? Now I need to like talk about what I just did. I'm so sweaty and like need to pee. Like I don't know why I need to tell you how it sucked to not get in the points." Like,
well, and I think as exhibited by their stop on our grid walk today, like Aston Martin's in this weird no man's land right now where there's just not much to say. Like, it's like, okay, we hope this year you're up competing with Alpine and McLaren instead of fighting with whatever, like, back of the grid team, like, circuit specific is a little better today. And so, like, what else? What is he going to say every week? It's like, not me defending Lance's inability to do media. I'm going to stop. You know what, Lance? I would like it if you did more media, too. But I just need more memes. Like, when Sky Sports was there for the launch, and clearly Lance was told, go join the interview. And we had to watch the man walk across the field, unsure of himself if he's supposed to be there. Because that is the most relatable thing. Like, when you're told, hey, go be over there, and it's like, but do they want me over there? And I felt seen. All right, we have 3 teams left. They're
the shrug. Like, yeah. You know, you're here right now. This is what we hope from you. So with Williams, where could you start? I mean, you know, they're going to have a driver this year that maybe won't drive backwards. Real fun. My big thing, I think, when will they use the Gulf livery is what I want to know. And I think as long as if they have one race when they have more than 2 points, success. Williams, you're great. You did it. Pop that bottle of champagne. You got 3 points this week. It's a success because it wasn't the way it was last year.
Yeah, Williams is the hardest team on the grid to talk about because I genuinely think their goal for themselves is just put some leadership in place and develop some processes, which is the least sexy thing to talk about going into an F1 season. It's like, who are you going to hire for your leadership team? And we're not going to know if that works for 5 years. Like, it's a lot of big picture planning. So, I agree. I think it's just, if the car has some downforce this year, that sounds like a win. There's a reason the Williams was fast at Monza, which was all straights. It's because the car had little to no grip on the tarmac. Like, they just could not. But hey, we're both rooting for Alex.
Yeah.
Like, we're not Logan fans. So I would like to see Alex fully cement himself as a driver that, yeah. And even if he continues at Williams, like, I like this resurgence we're on where we all think of Alex as the star driver I think he is and the star media man he is. He's so funny. Mm-hmm. So,
and he's such a better fit outside of Red Bull for me. I think he's like doesn't necessarily have the full Red Bull vibe persona, and I don't mean that as a good or bad thing. I just mean it as a general branding piece. There's just something about Alex and being at Williams, and so much of it works, and he seems very happy to be there. And with the team, I think, you know, just giving the boy the opportunity of a car that can do something. That'd be great.
Less sad weekends for Williams, more Alex Albon in my life. I think that's the general vibe. Yeah. Also, in this realm of not much going on, I think we have Haas. I think their goal is to develop a car better throughout the season. My goal for them is be more entertaining and maybe keep your title sponsor.
Yeah, let's not have like a, you know, racing energy debacle again. I'm very intrigued to see, you know, how MoneyGram will approach a not so stellar performance. So to me, if they, maybe score points in half the races this year, that'd be cool. If they get a Chipotle menu item, that I think would be a win. If MoneyGram is not, screaming at Gunther over the phone, I feel like you're in a good place. You can't expect too much when you have a tractor.
They just selected the most boring driver lineup you could possibly select. And contrary to what Drive to Survive makes it seem, Haas is probably the most boring team on the grid. So I'm just, I don't know, go over there or be a little less boring. Mercedes has made more Mick content in one off-season than Haas did for all the time that he drove their car. Mick is so personable. And whether or not you think he's a good driver, Haas doesn't need to be this boring.
Right. And speaking of Mick, if maybe Gunther can take 4 seconds before saying a quote to the press, because I just feel like every time we get statements about the status of Haas or their drivers or their opinions on anything, Gunther, it seems like he's running to the bathroom and is screaming at the press Mick's been a disappointment and it's not our issue. It just seems like no one is thinking when he responds and he just says words. The press is running after him in the paddock as he's trying to get to the little men's room, and he's just trying to get there and tell them things so they leave him alone, because they don't seem well-formed PR statements, and it's just what are you doing? Stick your foot in your mouth and chill. Because it's just sometimes you didn't need to shed that much kind of light in that situation.
But yet it's the only entertaining thing that's happening with that team right now. Yeah. So if Gunther stopped talking, there would be no reason to ever talk about or think about that team. When I write my yellow sector notes every week, I sit there and have to sift through so much little detailed information to find something interesting to say about what's going on with Haas. If you Haas fans out there, I need someone to pitch me what's exciting in Haas right now. Come talk to me, please tell me, because I'm big on there's going to be something exciting and entertaining about every team on the grid. Right now, I'm just
JJ Watt, we're looking at you to convince us why to be a Haas fan. Thank you. Yeah, no, that was definitely more here's my advice to Haas. What I loved, it is very entertaining to see every time Gunther says anything. I mean, he's given me my favorite quotes of all time. He's a bunch of legends, wankers, rock stars, pick your words. It's all great. It's all fantastic. So advice to Haas, control that. Advice as an entertaining fan piece to watch, let him run. Let him frolic and say anything.
All right, we're ending our grid walk today with Alfa Romeo. I think they're last on our list just because they're just in a stall and survive until Audi comes situation. I think their goal is to be able to develop their car throughout the season. They were pretty much the only car that came in underweight last year, which is why they performed so well at the beginning of the season, because less weight equals more lap time. And then when all the other teams came down to the weight limit, their performance kind of evaporated because they weren't able to develop their car. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that is their goal. But my goal is survive until Audi comes. And can you please create more content around Joe? Because he is one of the best drivers for entertainment purposes on the grid. He has great fashion sense. He's actually really funny. Him and Valtteri are a great duo. Have some personality, Alfa Romeo. Give us some good content to go off of this year.
Use it. Do it. You have two unbelievably charismatic drivers. Joe just deserves such a stronger, better spotlight. Come on, pull a Vanity Fair and do a get ready for the race day with me, and Joe is putting together his latest Dior outfit, or it's the latest Lululemon China apparel of anything. Would be so exciting, so fun to watch, so different than anything they've ever done, or just anything of them together. It's maybe you can get not a sketchy sponsor if you have utilizing the charisma of your drivers, because right now it's just boring and you're not. So, missed opportunity. You're missing out on a cash grab here, Alfa Romeo.
Well, that is our preseason preview. We've gone through every single team on the grid. I think hopefully you got a vibe for what we're rooting for this season, the goals we're personally watching the teams out for, but also who we're rooting for, because we're not journalists. Like, we do have a bias in all of this. The W14 better be fast, and Lewis better win a race. That's really what the camp over here is rooting for, is primarily Lewis winning a race. That is, just please, for my sanity. We will be back next week with our more regularly scheduled Grid Walk episodes, but also on Friday, again, with our special Drive to Survive episode. Okay, to end this off, I thought it'd be fun to let everyone know, like, what our bias is in all of this. And I'm going to say a team name, and then we're both going to say the driver we're rooting to win the teammate battle, and then the driver we actually think is going to win the teammate battle. So, we're going to go in reverse order. We did this grid walk. So, starting with Alfa Romeo. Nicole, who are you rooting for? Who do you think is actually going to win?
I'm rooting for Valtteri. I think Zhou's going to win.
I'm rooting for Zhou, and I think Zhou's going to win. Haas, who are you rooting for?
K-Mag across the board.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think K-Mag, yeah. Williams.
I am rooting for Alex, and I think Alex will outperform Logan.
Agree. Aston Martin.
I am rooting for Lance. Ooh. Yep, manifest. And I think Lance is going to outperform Alonso.
I am rooting for Lance, and I think it's going to be so close that it depends on how you slice it. I think Alonso's going to have more flashier performances. But Alpine.
Esty Bestie across the board. He's already winning in the PR battle. So I think he'll outperform, and he's my bestie. So
Agree. McLaren.
Do I have to even say? If no one's been listening, I'm definitely rooting for Oscar.
Me too.
And I am manifesting Oscar outperforming Lando.
I think Lando's going to outperform, but I do think they're going to get closer by the end of the season. I think Piastri will improve. AlphaTauri.
Unsure of who will outperform here. I guess I'll just say with experience, maybe Yuki. I'll put Yuki, but I'm rooting for Nick.
I'm rooting for Nick, and I'll go the opposite. I think Nick outperforms this season. Red Bull.
I'm rooting for Max, and Max will outperform Checo. No doubt in my mind.
Wait. Before we move on.
You know what? At least I'm not lying.
Yeah, no. I want you to be honest, but it still gets the boo. I'm rooting for Checo. I think Max will dominate. Ferrari.
I'm rooting for Charles. I think Carlos will outperform Charles.
Whoa. Okay. I thought I was going to have the hot take. I'm rooting for Carlos, and I think Carlos will outperform Charles. But I do think it's going to be the closest battle on the grid, and it's just like, I think the reality is like, one might win more races, the other one might get more points, or one might have better race pace, but just be more unlucky. Like, I think outperforming, similar to the Aston Martin situation, I think whoever outperforms is going to just be a matter of perspective. Mm-hmm. All right, last but not least,
biggest
Mercedes
of the season.
Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton. Sir Lewis Hamilton is going to fly in the black W14. Who is George? I don't know him. It's all about Lewis.
I do think it's funny because if someone listened to this and like didn't know us in real life, they would think we hate George Russell. And I actually, like, I love the little, like, number one driver in training, but, like, the GOAT. So, all right.
Love you, George.
That is a wrap on our, like, full 2023 season preview, Nicole.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh, car's on track.
Oh my god, literally, like, so, being an F1 fan in the Pacific time zone is weird. Technically, tonight at 11:30 p.m. my time, cars are on track.
That's wild. Oh my gosh.
By the time anyone can listen to this episode, day one of preseason testing will be done.
Cars will be driving when this is posted.
Amazing.
Well, we need to give a big thank you to, as always, Voiceover Man, Epidemic Sound for providing our fantastic little sounders and background music, and our four-legged executive producers. Make sure that you turn on auto downloads, rate and review the pod. Hey everyone on Apple Podcasts, we are getting so close to Bahrain, and that is when we are hoping to have 5 reviews by lights out. Pretty please, really helps us out. Like, rate, review the pod, let us know where we can improve, and let us know what you're loving. Follow us on every social media platform, wherever you prefer to be hanging out during the week, at Gridwalk Show for our daily Grid Walks. We will be back every Thursday. It's a mouthful. We will be back every single Thursday. And this week we will have an extra bonus episode. Don't forget, this weekend. So we'll see you this weekend and next week. Today definitely felt more like a grid sprint than a grid